What's scarier to the boss than Frankenstein or Dracula? When all the Hollywood monsters get together to form a union. Believe it or not, that's basically what happened in 1933 when the Screen Actors Guild was founded in Hollywood. Sometimes referred to as the golden age of Hollywood, during the 1930s, 5 major studios basically ran a monopoly on movie magic, creating an exploitative industry that pumped out more movies a year than any other decade before or since. Horror was a newer genre at the time and gaining immense popularity, but the real horror was the working conditions on set. Boris Karloff, iconic for portraying Frankenstein, the Mummy, and other movie monsters for years of franchise sequels, was held in an exclusive binding contract with the studios. He was pushed to his limit when shooting Frankenstein especially. They made him wear an uncomfortable, heavy costume, with his shoes alone weighing 10 pounds each, aggravating his chronic back problems. To top it off, they worked him to the bone, with one day infamously shooting 25 hours straight in full costume and makeup. After facing these abuses, Karloff wasn't going to take it anymore. The same year that Karloff was playing Frankenstein, another horror icon, Bela Lugosi, was starring in Dracula. Lugosi had immigrated from Hungary, where he had been part of the socialist movement led by Bela Kun. During the brief revolutionary period, Lugosi led a massive demonstration of actors and eventually formed the National Trade Union of Actors, the first union of its kind in the world, which he served as the general secretary of. After the defeat of the revolution, he was forced to flee for his life and found his way to the US, where he began to act once again. After Lugosi found work, he was incredibly popular and often prominently featured on movie ads. But due to xenophobic discrimination by the studios, he was often relegated to minor roles and paid substantially less than his co-stars. Neither of their experiences were unique though, and actors across Hollywood, no matter how successful or famous, faced extremely exploitative contracts and abusive working conditions. Actors were trapped in long-term contracts that controlled their finances, their roles, and even their public appearances and romantic lives. Hollywood fame came at a steep price. Both Karloff and Lugosi became founding members and leaders within SAG when the union first started meeting in secret in 1933. Out of fear of reprisal by the powerful studios, many actors refused to join at first. However, that all changed suddenly when the studio bosses colluded with one another to basically fix prices to systematically underpay actors, ensuring they wouldn't try to outbid each other for talent. That was the final straw, and within 3 weeks, SAG's membership exploded from around 80 members to over 4,000, including most of the top stars of the day. Only a few years later, in 1937, SAG negotiated their first contract with the major studios, winning minimum wages, overwork protections, and arbitration in disputes, changing the lives of actors and beginning to shift the power balance in Hollywood for the first time in favor of the workers. The studio bosses may have been scared of the actors organizing, but the entire capitalist class was truly frightened of what could happen if politically progressive or even radical actors and writers gained a national platform to speak to the entire country. So they would do whatever they could to keep those voices out of Hollywood. Enter the Red Scare.
If he openly declares himself to be a communist, we take his word for it.
In 1947, the same year the US launched the Cold War through its foreign policy, the anti-communist witch hunts at home began a wave of attacks on progressive political figures and organizations, starting with unions. Unions were the leading organization for working class politics in the US, representing 1 in 3 workers and leading over 5 million on strikes across major industries immediately after World War II. That same year, Congress passed the Taft-Hartley Act, which would politically hamstring unions by imposing major restrictions on strike activity, creating the framework to implement racist right-to-work laws, and requiring union leadership to sign anti-communist affidavits. In one of their most dramatic investigations in 1947, the House Committee on Un-American Activities led the witch hunts against alleged communists and Hollywood unions. Starting from attack lists published in The Hollywood Reporter, a popular tabloid, Congress called 10 award-winning screenwriters to testify, including John Howard Lawson, a founding member and the first president of the Screenwriters Guild, Lester Cole and Samuel Ornitz, the other two central figures of the Writers' Union, and Dalton Trumbo, who was the highest paid writer in the world then for his critically acclaimed scripts. The Hollywood 10 defiantly stood against the witch hunts by asserting their constitutional rights to their own political beliefs and association, refusing to incriminate themselves or their colleagues. For their refusal to participate, they were held in contempt and sentenced to a year in prison. Congress, the studios, and the union's reactionary president, none other than future President Ronald Reagan, then colluded to ensure that these 10 would never work in Hollywood again, beginning the Hollywood blacklist. Continuing to claim that the specter of communism was haunting Hollywood, studio execs and Cold Warrior politicians added hundreds more names to the blacklist who would then basically be barred from working in the American film industry ever again, simply for what they believed or said, or if someone powerful just had a grudge against them. Most studios took it even further, pumping out anti-communist propaganda films to prove their loyalty while rooting out any dissident or pro-peace voices in the industry for decades to come. Hear it from the Hollywood 10 themselves.
When we were asked, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? The committee was really preparing to ask you, are you now or have you ever been in favor of peace?
This may feel like the distant past, but the ghost of the Hollywood blacklist is still haunting Hollywood today. While Hollywood attempts to present a progressive veneer, working conditions are still harsh and exploitative for many, and dissident voices are not tolerated if the industry bosses say they've gone too far. Today, actors in Hollywood are calling for peace, this time demanding a ceasefire and an end to the Israeli genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. Many actors who are speaking out against the genocide, like Susan Sarandon and Melissa Barrera, have been dropped from agencies and fired from projects for expressing their political beliefs. This has led to hundreds of actors rallying publicly behind them, though, including Mark Ruffalo, Rami Youssef, Cynthia Nixon, Rosie O'Donnell, and Common, writing a letter calling on SAG-AFTRA to defend actors against this new McCarthyism in Hollywood and to join their calls for a ceasefire in Gaza.